Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shane. I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 217, moving from sales colleague to sales manager. Before we begin, I want to remind you, head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel. Subscribe, and we will send you the show notes weekly. All it takes is an email, first name. It's all we ask for. And we send out our published content every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Okay, today's agenda. Prepare yourself. Ground rules and avoid the traps. So I thought about this topic because it's been a long time since I moved into that role. But I remember it being one of those moments in time where you're sort of thinking about, okay, I'm moving from rep to manager, from colleague to boss. And that's a pretty big jump for a number of reasons. And looking back on it, there are some things I could have done better. There's some things that I thought I did well. But I think some of this advice in here is based on my personal experience and based on some of the things I've witnessed over the years. So when I say prepare yourself, there's a lot that goes into that. And oftentimes people up the food chain, your boss, may not think about this in the same way. So they may not be as thoughtful in processing this. So when I say prepare yourself, it may be preparing those above you in the food chain. So as you go through the process of determining whether you're going to be a manager or not, I can't speak to what your company does. If a company has a really good program in place, development, and they go through a real strong process to bring someone along and then promote them to manager, I think that's great. I don't often see that. So that's going to require a little work on your part to get ready for the management role. I'm not going to discourage you from reading management books or sales management blogs and those types of things. I think you should, but I wouldn't get hung up in the weeds on that stuff and twisted and turned. And what I mean by that is, people like the shiny red thing, the shiny, I should say the shiny gold coin. If you've ever seen the movie Ice Age, it's not that I sit around and watch cartoons, but there's a squirrel in there and he's looking for the golden nut. And the entire movie, it kind of flashes to him chasing the golden nut, and he just keeps hitting a wall. He gets really close to getting it, and then boom, he falls. A lot of companies and a lot of people are prone to chasing that. So they'll read a book and they'll want to change their entire process and personality. And I'm not saying things don't need change and development and evolution, but if you're basing it off of a book you've read or a blog or something like that, and you're just waking up and making the change for the sake of change, then I'd say you're chasing the golden acorn, like the squirrel in the movie. So think about yourself, and do I do that? There are people that read, for example, the Steve Jobs book, and I had somebody, a boss, say, I need to be more like Steve Jobs. And I was like, please don't. Not everybody was like Steve Jobs. He was a bit of a mad scientist. He wore the same clothes every day, didn't have any furniture in his house, et cetera, et cetera. There were some pretty weird things going on there. Yes, he was a great leader, a visionary, all of that good stuff, but be yourself. And when you prepare yourself for this, think about that. Think about who you are as a person and what that looks like. So I'm going to start with the announcement. How is it being announced? How is it being brought to the team? The first thing you should do is keep your mouth shut. If you get the job, wait for the announcement. And why do I say that? Because you're setting precedents. You're not telling your friends on the team you're getting promoted. The expectation is that you're going to let them in on every little secret. So that should be your first thing. Don't say anything to anybody. The announcement needs to be formalized, and it needs to come from up the food chain. So my suggestion would be they put something in writing, and then they do a formal announcement something in writing to the company, and then a formal announcement to the team as a group. Be prepared for something that I don't think we all are prepared for. Not everyone's going to be happy with this decision. It could be the person you were competing with for the job. Now you're the manager. It could be somebody you were competitive with in the sales role, kind of competed for the most sales or whatever it is that you competed with. So just keep in mind that not everybody's going to look at this the same way you look at it, as an earned opportunity, especially if you're not the top salesperson in the company. Because that's factual in some cases. That's real. That happens all the time. The best players don't always make the best coaches. Sometimes they do. I'm not going to say that that's a given. But some of the greatest coaches in sports not played at the highest level in the sport they're coaching, have not been the best of the best. So you look around, here in the U.S., the NFL, Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches, right? He didn't play at the highest level in the NFL. I don't think he even played in the NFL. Scotty Bowman, one of the greatest hockey coaches, a legend, didn't play at the highest level in the NHL. He won multiple Stanley Cups with multiple teams. The Canadiens, the Penguins, and the Red Wings. Great coach, great leader. So I'm sure when he first got that job, not everybody was happy with that. So be prepared for that. Mentally prepare yourself for coaching. You're in a different role now. You're not the salesperson, you're the coach. Takes on a different connotation. You're there to help. What I have always said to sales rep, I am a value add to you. I'm there to help you in whatever endeavors you're handling. For example, it's the business and the numbers, right? I'm trying to help you sell more. I'm trying to help you develop as a salesperson. Help your career. You're there as the coach. You're the value add. The coach is not the superstar. The coach is not in front. The coach's people are. It's about leadership. Understanding that you're there to lead the team. Over time, they're going to follow what you do. And they're going to benchmark off of you. And there's a lot of discussion around levels of sales with sales teams. They'll move to the level the manager will accept. So if you're accepting 80%, they're going to perform at 80%. If you're accepting 100, they're going to perform at 100, and so on. So think about your leadership and how you're going to be a leader. My recommendation is do some research and do some reading on leadership. But leadership is about moving from me to we. It's moving away from what you see as a benefit to you to what you see as a benefit to the team and to the whole. So you're making decisions and you're leading the team as a whole. So what's in the best interest of the company? What's in the best interest of the team? What's in the best interest of the players on my team? You're the last person on that list. And when you think like that, well, there's some tough decisions to be made, trust me, over time. But you'll grow if you're prepared to do that. Sometimes that's a different transition. And what does this have to do with moving from the colleague to their manager? A lot. Because now you're in a different position. You have to have different conversations. You have a different point of view. You're not the guy sitting at the bar having a beer with them complaining about your boss. So what are the ground rules? First, I would establish ground rules on how I'm going to manage and how I'm going to manage my team. And I'd let the team know that up front. I want to have an open discussion with you. Everybody says that, right? A lot of people say that. There's no more dictatorial management left in the world. You want an open discussion. You want, well, there is, but you know what I mean. It doesn't work. You want a two-way street. You want to respect what they're saying. You want to know what worked and what didn't work. It's open door policy. You're going to provide feedback to them and they're going to provide feedback to you. And I think it's a good idea to say right up front, listen, I've moved into this role. I feel like I've earned it. I know I can do a good job here, but I'm not perfect. And I'm depending on you to provide feedback to me on what's working and what's not. Not only in your sales opportunities and what I'm coaching you on, but in the performance of yourself and in my performance as a manager. What salespeople really need from you is leadership. They need consistency. If you say you're going to meet and you're going to discuss specific things, then that's what you do. You build out the culture of coaching. You provide good leadership. You deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on, and things are going to work. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Small bites. So the ground rules are simple. We're going to have an open discussion. We're going to talk about what works and what doesn't work. We're going to provide feedback. You're trying to get them to buy into what you're doing. You don't need to bring the hammer down in the beginning. It's very open. This is how I'm going to conduct my meetings. This is what the weekly one-on-ones are going to look like. This is what the coaching sessions are going to look like. This is what the ride-alongs. Be prepared. Lay it all out. Don't try to change the world at once. You start trying to change everything at once, they're going to go crazy. Slowly implement the things that you think are going to work and that you have time for and that you can manage. Don't try to do it all at once. So the ground rules are simple. It's an easier way for you to manage the team in this transition. So they see you in a different light, from colleague to manager, and they know you're prepared. So as you begin to go through the process, they say, wow, this person really put the time and effort into doing this. So you got to prepare yourself for what's going to happen mentally, but you also have to build out your vision for the team very early on in the process. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to make a slow transition into the things that I think are going to be helpful to us as a team. One, we're going to have an open door policy. I want discussion and I want feedback. What worked for you, what doesn't work for you. How I'm doing, how you're doing. Yes, we're building in a culture of coaching and development here. So I'm going to spend my time with you on those very important topics. I'm expecting you to show up prepared for our weekly meetings, as I will do the same. The data is very important to me. I'm going to look at the numbers. I'm going to look at the data. I'm going to look at the things that are important to driving business. And ultimately, that's going to drive some of the things that we do here. I want to know where success is going to come from. And I want to show them that, how they're going to be successful. Lay it out in the beginning. You don't need a sacrificial lamb. A lot of, coaches come in and they sacrifice somebody for the good of the whole to show that they're in charge. You don't need to do that sort of thing. You stand up there with confidence. Prepare yourself for what's coming in the beginning. Lay out the ground rules. Stay confident in what you're doing. And offer them the opportunity to be part of the team by providing you feedback, as you will do the same for them. Next, I want to talk about avoiding the traps. So there's all kinds of traps in this. Okay? So I'm going to say first off, respect is earned. It's not given just because you're in the role. They'll feign respect for you in order to get what they want. But ultimately, the true measure of that respect is how they act when you're not in the room, what they say about you. Now, there's a difference between your little idiosyncrasies and they're laughing about your habits and the things that you say and do. That's normal. I mean, I get a litany of those from my kids, all the goofy things that I say and do. I don't think that's because they disrespect me. I think it's the other way around. And I think that you need to understand that. But you earn respect through your actions and through delivering on the promises and doing what you're supposed to be doing. So if it's a me first attitude and as a manager you want to throw your rep under the bus for your benefit, that's not going to help. They need to know that you have their back. They need to know that you are going to be their champion when it's appropriate to be their champion. Not for the sake of just being their champion, just to say, hey, I'm your manager and I stand up for you people. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they need to be held accountable. And all the covering that you'll be doing for people underperforming will kill you. So understand, it's a two-way street. I've got your back as long as you do what you're supposed to do. Don't expect me to cover for you when you make a mistake or when you're not doing your job. I think people make mistakes. You can work through that. But it's earned. It's earned through your actions, and it's earned through the things you say and do on a daily basis. Do you show up for meetings on time? Do you show up prepared? Are you consistent? When it gets really rough and they have an issue internally, are you there for them or externally with a customer? Avoid the water cooler gossip. And I will tell you this, and I've said this before, I didn't tell my managers or my reps anything. There was a lot of, in the places that I've worked, like any other company, there's a lot of gossip. Tons of it. It does drive me a little crazy, gossip. So the assumption was that I was telling people everything because that's what other managers did, and that's it. And I think people were often surprised at the fact that my sales reps and managers didn't know things that were going on they shouldn't know, and didn't know the gossip, because I didn't do that. If anybody comes home to my house and starts trying to tell me gossip about a neighbor, I tell them I don't want to hear it. I don't like it. It's none of my business who's doing what with it. I could care less. And I don't disclose things that are for managers only to get in the good graces of my sales team. That's the worst thing you can do. And they grow into expecting that. And they feel entitled. They start acting differently. And when they screw up and you try to hold them accountable, it makes it much more difficult when you're gossiping. You have a tremendous amount of influence on how they behave and what they do. If you're not going to tolerate that sort of thing in your small group with them, your expectation is they're not going to do that when you're not around. Now, some of them will, because it's normal. People will do that. But if they know you won't do it, it creates a whole different dynamic and a whole different relationship. And unfortunately, if you did it before as a rep, you need to work really hard to break that, because you have a ton of influence on how your team operates and acts. You want to focus on driving business, developing them to be better at what they do, not on the gossip of the day or what's coming. Hey, I'm letting you know about a change that's coming ahead of time. That doesn't do anybody any good. Don't do that. And it's not your job to go to them and say, hey, I really fought for you, but it didn't work. It's to say, your job is to support the company. So even though you're fighting for something that maybe you didn't agree with, but your bosses say you have to do it, it's not your job to say, I really fought for you. It's terrible to do that. Terrible. If it means that much to you and you need to quit, then quit. But trying to get into good graces of the reps saying, I really worked hard, but it just didn't work out. Really good things coming. I'll never forget, I came out of a management meeting with my boss and all the managers. This was years ago. And they were making a change. We decided to make a change with a rep and the territory. It was interesting. By the end of the week, the next week, everyone, with the exception of one person, that's me, had gone up to her and said, hey, some good things are coming for you. I really fought for you. It's like, are you serious? Why would you do that? Now, I found this out years later. Why would you do that? It's not good. Remember social gatherings, how much fun they are as a sales rep, drinking with your buddies and having a good time. Or those things are fun, but understand your role in the company. You're the boss now. And what that means and how you should conduct yourself. And I know a lot of people in sales are going to tell me, when we go away and we do this, we party. And hey, I'm all for that. I'm not going to tell you not to. Party and have a good time. But just remember your role and the influence a party or an event has on building team as well as destroying it. So you just have to understand, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who you are and the influence you have. So when you have those social gatherings or you go on those business trips, you're still the boss. Somehow people lose their minds when they go away on business trips. It's like the whole world is different and they act differently. Sure, I went out and had fun and had some drinks and dinner and socialized, and I did all that stuff and do all that stuff on business trips. But understand you're the boss, and how you act has a huge influence on how they feel about you. So avoiding those traps, very important. Just a few things that I think help when you're moving from colleague to friend. And just remember, you can still have the friendship. I have a rep that we're in the same age group. We had similar families in terms of age and size, 3 kids and same ages. And we both liked sports. And we'd go to lunch and we would talk about everything but business on some days. Some days it wasn't about his sales, or, I did a lot of that. But on days we just needed to chill a little bit and have a lunch. We would talk about our kids. We would talk about our families. We'd talk about sports. We would talk about everything but work. You can still do that. You just have to understand the role. Thank you for subscribing to The Funnel. You can find us at alignment-group.com/The Funnel. On social media, Facebook, Twitter, @ShayJohnR. And, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to email me, jshay@alignment-group.com. Head on over to the website. We have lots of cool stuff you can download there and learn about all the things we talk about in our podcast. Again, thank you. And until next time, keep filling the funnel.